Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and we got some major updates on the Vikings quarterback plans this offseason as the Twitter rumors are starting to go around about two main quarterbacks, that being Mac Jones and then actually Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson. Or if you guys remember before the 2023 NFL Draft, the Vikings were trying to send a haul to Indianapolis for Anthony Richardson, and maybe the Vikings will pursue him this offseason. But before we dive into it all, as we let the audience build up here on today's live show, if you guys love the Minnesota Vikings, hit me with a skull down below in the comments section. We'll give you guys some shout-outs here. Shout out to Scott. Shout out to Ben at Hereford in the building. Matthew in the house. Ryan Manley in the building. Ghost in the building. How you guys doing? Appreciate everybody for tuning in. But it was actually Jason Harmon who was down at the Senior Bowl, and he said he was hearing some nuggets out there of the Vikings are keeping an eye on Mac Jones and also keeping an eye on Anthony Richardson. So that's a major update today, and we'll dive into it in full here in just a second. But shout out to Corey Miller in the building, Ryan Manley, Vikings Roach, Reed Southern. Appreciate all the real ones for tuning in. But if you guys had to pick one, let me know who you guys would pick. Would it be Anthony Richardson or would it be Mac Jones? Keep in mind, an Anthony Richardson trade would probably cost you about a 6th or a 7th round pick. Or a Mac Jones trade, more likely a 2nd-round pick, maybe a 3rd-round pick. But you guys let me know your thoughts down below. Ryan saying, what's up, Seeps? Not much. Down here in Dallas, Texas, we were snowed in on Monday and Tuesday. Feels good to be back in the studio today. Yeah, it feels good to be back. I was just driving myself crazy just staying inside the entire weekend and on Monday and Tuesday. I just could not handle it. But you guys let me know who you want, Anthony Richardson or Mac Jones. Out of these two options, I would go Anthony Richardson, mainly just because the draft capital you would have to give up. Now, obviously, there's no debating who's a better quarterback, Mac Jones or Anthony Richardson. It is by far Mac Jones. But I think with the draft capital you would have to give up, I would probably lean in the direction of Anthony Richardson because also this guy's got tremendous upside. And I kind of like the idea of the Vikings having two quarterbacks, and Anthony Richardson and J.J. McCarthy. Right now, they're not good, but they also both have pretty high potential. Kevin O'Connell is just like, hey, I just got to make one of these guys work. And I got a franchise quarterback. But we'll see. We need a pocket passer. I hear you, but also, there's not really a good option out there. I mean, Kirk Cousins expected to get released by the Atlanta Falcons. We'll probably do a full video on that tomorrow, but we'll see how that goes down. Mac Jones, true pocket passer. I just think Mac Jones, the Vikings would be committing to mediocrity. They would be committing to a 9-8 season. They would be committing to a 10-7 season. So I'm not the biggest fan of a Mac Jones potential trade there, considering you would have to give up a 2nd or 3rd round draft pick. Damian saying Mac Jones is another Sam Darnold, but it hasn't had a team like the Vikings weapons. Mac Jones led the Alabama team to the national championship. Remember that? I disagree with that. I think Sam Darnold, just on paper and his profile of a quarterback and an athlete in the NFL, is way higher than Mac Jones. I mean, Sam Darnold was the 3rd overall pick. He's bigger. He's stronger. He's more athletic. He's got a bigger arm. Maybe Mac Jones is a little more decisive, a little more accurate as a quarterback, but I think Sam Darnold, it's pretty night and day of who's the better true raw prospect between him and Mac Jones there. Now the Vikes would have an Ant-Man. Oh, talking about Anthony Richardson? Yeah, that's a good point. I like that. Patrick, who is your favorite college football team? I was always riding with Michigan just because of J.J. McCarthy, but I don't really have one. Kind of just root for good college football games. What would they need in order to bring in Anthony Richardson? Probably just a 6th-round pick in 2027. Marco Sports saying, tomorrow is my birthday. Happy early birthday to you. Would love to see Burrow in purple and gold. I would love that, but not going to happen. Yeah, Michigan State, Michigan in college basketball tomorrow. That's going to be a good game. Been watching a lot of college hoops lately. A lot of talent in college basketball this season, so it's pretty exciting to watch. We are destroying them. Should be a good game. I mean, Michigan just came down to the wire against Nebraska the other night. That was a hell of a game as well. Scott saying we need a true QB. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. But, hey, coming up on today's show, we got the latest quarterback rumors around Anthony Richardson and Mac Jones. And also I got 8 reasons why Vikings fans should be excited about the future. I understand most people are pretty negative right now on the Minnesota Vikes. But, hey, there's a lot to be positive about. So we'll dive into that on the second segment today. And then also we'll get into a mailbag. So just use hashtag Vikings down below in the live chat. Or if you guys want to super chat to support the show, it's just a dollar icon below. But hashtag Vikings, get those questions in there. Matthew, if you could get a question in there saying trade Raiders everything for number 1 pick, I'm probably all right on that. Even though I like Mendoza, there's just no way to get up to number 1. But if you guys could get those questions in there, hashtag Vikings down below. Are the Timberwolves cooked? I don't think so. There's a lot of buzz about them trading for Giannis Antetokounmpo. So that should be fun. Trade deadline next Wednesday here in the NBA, so that would be a blast to cover. Crypto saying still got faith in J.J. McCarthy. Bounce back will be strong. I do too. I still think J.J. McCarthy has potential to be a franchise guy. We'll just see how fast he can develop. Like, I think eventually he'll get to that point, but it will come down to how patient the Vikings want to be with him, especially with these guys. You know, pressure's on KOC and Kwesi this upcoming year, so will they want to be patient with J.J. McCarthy? We'll see. But get those questions in there. Hashtag Vikings. If you guys could help us out, we'll get into a mailbag in about 40 minutes or so. Ryan, get a question in there. E3 Johnson, get a question in there. Matthew, all of you guys, hashtag Vikings down below. Get those questions in there. And if you guys could, hit that thumbs up icon. We're at 19 likes right now. If we get to 25 likes, that would be awesome stuff. So if you guys could, smash that thumbs up icon. Get those questions in there. And we'll talk about the Mac Jones and Anthony Richardson trade rumors here coming up in just a second. Shout out to Reed Southern for tuning in. Donald saying J.J. McCarthy is Tavares Jackson. Hope not. That would be bad if he was. Pat, if you bring in Anthony Richardson, what's your record prediction? Good question there, Ghost. Appreciate you. But get those questions in there. Hashtag Vikings. So let's dive into today's show. Talk about the latest quarterback rumors for your Minnesota Vikings. Let's do it. We got some big-time quarterback rumors around your Minnesota Vikings that we'll dive into on today's edition of Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman. Appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. But it was actually Jason Harmon who was at the Senior Bowl this week, and he tweeted out some nuggets that he's been hearing, and he said that the Vikings are keeping the names of Mac Jones and Anthony Richardson on their radar this offseason. So we'll talk about both quarterbacks, which quarterback I would prefer the Vikings to trade for here in just a second. But if you guys could, hit that subscribe button today. We'll keep you guys posted with everything you need to know this offseason. I always say the people who are watching the offseason content here on the channel are the true sickos. You guys are the true diehard football fans. I always appreciate you guys for tuning in. But if you guys haven't, hit that subscribe button today. We got the latest news, rumors, and reports out of Minnesota, free agency coverage, draft content, the latest trade buzz around the Minnesota Vikings. And, hey, we're less than 500 subscribers away from 70,000 here on the channel. So join our Vikings Now family. Hit that subscribe button today. And don't miss a thing around your Minnesota Vikings this offseason. All right, let's start off here with Mac Jones. Now, Mac Jones, I mean, he's been heavily connected to the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, even dating back to October and November this past season when J.J. McCarthy wasn't playing well, Mac Jones was playing some good football. A lot of people were connecting the Minnesota Vikings to the San Francisco 49ers backup quarterback. And with a lot of smoke around there, no, it does make some sense. Now, Mac Jones this past season, he started 8 games for San Francisco, played some good football. He manned the ship while Brock Purdy was out dealing with his injuries, had a solid completion percentage, threw for 2,100 yards in 8 games, 13 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, had a solid QBR, and he's just a guy that can, man the ship. I do think these numbers are a little inflated just because of the Kyle Shanahan offense. It's always quarterback friendly, but he is, in my opinion, a high-end backup quarterback. Now, Mac Jones, very limited, and I think the stats kind of speak to that here. Big-time throws for Mac Jones this season. He only had 8, whereas turnover-worthy plays were 10. So he was starting to put the ball in harm's way, especially during the last couple of starts for the San Francisco 49ers, but he's a very accurate quarterback. Like, if you just want a vanilla, middle-of-the-pack guy who can run the offense at a decent level, won't give you anything extra, Mac Jones is your choice. Now, how much will it cost? We'll dive into that here in a second, but it was actually Albert Breer who connected the Vikings to Mac Jones as well, saying everybody, Minnesota would be a fun idea. The Vikings will bring in competition for J.J. McCarthy, but may have to do it on a budget. They've explored the reclamation project path that worked so well for them with Sam Darnold in 2024. Tua Tagovailoa and Kyler Murray could be ideas, just not on their current contracts. Jones, who, like Darnold, would be coming from San Francisco, would make a good amount of sense. And, I agree with that. Like, Mac Jones would make a good amount of sense in terms of a guy that the Vikings could bring in because, Mac Jones, you could potentially get him, for like a second or third round pick. So he would make a lot of sense, but also he would be a commitment to mediocrity for the Minnesota Vikings. Like, if you would bring in Mac Jones and make him the no doubt starter for 17 games, I think that would be no doubt for the Minnesota Vikings, where you're telling your fan base where it's like, hey, like, we don't really care about, making the end goal of winning Super Bowls or making NFC championships games. I think a little bit of it would be like, oh, the Vikings are trying to save their jobs. Like guys like Kwesi, guys like Kevin O'Connell. Like if you want to go the safe route and just get to the playoffs, potentially win one playoff game, I think that's Mac Jones. But you would also be limiting your ceiling. There would be no chance the Vikings make the NFC title game or make the Super Bowl with Mac Jones at quarterback. So that's why I'm a little concerned is that, it does make a lot of sense, but he's also a commitment to mediocrity for the Minnesota Vikings. I guarantee you the GM, Kwesi, I bet you he's pounding the table for Mac Jones over McCarthy. There's no doubt in my mind. If you had to ask Kwesi Adofo-Mensah behind closed doors, who do you want as a quarterback next season? He would say Mac Jones for the biggest reason because he thinks that Mac Jones is a safer option than J.J. McCarthy because J.J. McCarthy is polarizing. We don't know what J.J. we're going to get next season. Like, would he bank on J.J. McCarthy developing this offseason? Potentially, or would you rather just go the safe route of Mac Jones and be like, oh, he's going to get us over the hump, for the Vikings there. And, a potential trade idea for the Vikings landing Mac Jones here would just be the Vikings sending a second-round pick. Now, I think this is way too much. Sending a day 2 pick for Mac Jones, especially a second round with the Vikings, one, you are just against the cap space like none other. You have the second least amount of cap space in the NFL. Now, yes, the Vikings, a lot of flexibility. Like, they have a lot of guys they can restructure, a lot of guys they could potentially cut. But would you want to give up a second-round pick for Mac Jones? I would not. There are too many holes on this roster. And again, a second-round pick for a guy where his max potential is 10 wins, maybe a playoff game. Like, best-case scenario. Like, if we all close our eyes right now, we trade for Mac Jones in 2 months. The best-case scenario with the Mac Jones version of the Minnesota Vikings is you win one playoff game. That's it. There's no chance you make the title game. There's no chance you make the Super Bowl. So giving up a second-round pick for that, I would be against it. Now, however, let's just say the Vikings do bring in Mac Jones. If J.J. McCarthy can't beat out Mac Jones after an offseason of development, I think we got problems with J.J. McCarthy. So that's where I could talk myself into Mac Jones being a potential solution for the Minnesota Vikings. Because let's just say they do go trade. Maybe it's for a third-round pick. Like, you could talk me into a third-round pick for Mac Jones, and it's like, hey, we're going to have quarterback competition, J.J. versus Mac Jones. I could get behind that because I could make an argument. I think J.J. McCarthy, after an offseason of developing, would be better than Mac Jones heading into the next season. I know it's a crazy concept. I know NFL fans, like, we're such prisoners of the moment, and we think every young quarterback is a final copy of who they are. Crazy thought here. What if a 23-year-old kid in J.J. McCarthy gets a whole lot better this offseason? What if he gets to a point where he's better than Mac Jones? What if he gets to a point where he's better than Kirk Cousins week 1 of next season? Not trying to get too hot takey on the show. I think that's a possibility for J.J. McCarthy. This kid was a developmental project. He was obviously a guy who wasn't going to come out ready to go right away. He's got a live arm, got great mobility. He just needs to shore up the mechanics, and I think he will this offseason. So, yes, would Mac Jones make a great backup for a third-round pick? I would definitely take the chance on that, but still, I think J.J. McCarthy should be the starter even if you go trade for Mac Jones. But again, if he can't beat him out, then that's more on J.J. McCarthy. But you guys let me know. What say you on this one? Would you trade for Mac Jones? Give me a T for trade. Give me a P for pass. For a third-round pick, I would consider it. Second-round pick, absolutely not. Third-round pick, if Vikings get an extra third because of the Sam Darnold comp pick, you could talk me into it, but I would want it to be a quarterback battle, like a true quarterback battle. It's Mac Jones versus J.J. McCarthy. That's the only way I'm signing up for it. But you guys let me know your thoughts. Would you trade for Mac Jones? T for trade, P for pass. All right, let's talk about Kevin O'Connell's guy here. Anthony Richardson, polarizing choice. Obviously, has not been good so far in his NFL career. I think there's a chance if I at least call the Indianapolis Colts about a potential Richardson trade. So we'll talk about that here in a second. Let me tell you about today's presenting sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. Now, the big game is almost here, and there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than on Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And since the big game is right around the corner, that also means it's your last chance to get into the football action before next season. So close the season outright with Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you put your first $5. You guys can also find your community on Prize Picks with the new social feeds feature. You can share Prize Picks with your friends and copy lineups from winners with a single click. Copy lineups you like or use them as inspiration for your own picks. You can even follow Prize Picks partners like us and tail or fade our picks with just one click. Prize Picks also has a new feature called Early Payouts. So if your player gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to potentially cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. And download the PrizePicks app today. We'll have this link for you guys in the comment section and description of today's show. Just plug in promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. It's promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Shout out to PrizePicks for sponsoring today's show. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, let's talk about Anthony Richardson here. I'm assuming a lot of people will automatically just say, no chance. I want Anthony Richardson in this building. And for the biggest reason of that is that Anthony Richardson has looked horrible so far in his NFL career. I mean, his stats throughout his first 2 seasons in the NFL, one, injuries playing a huge factor in this. And it's pretty funny. Anthony Richardson and J.J. McCarthy are pretty similar. Different styles of quarterback, I think, but also 2 guys who just haven't had a lot of reps, dealt with a lot of injuries, and the flashes are there with both these guys. But they are pretty similar. And I just think Anthony Richardson, his upside is so high that I'd be willing to take a risk on him, and he wouldn't really cost anything against the books. Same with Mac Jones that we were talking about earlier. Mac Jones would be on the books for about $3 million, but same with Anthony Richardson on his first-round rookie contract. It only cost Minnesota $5.3 million in 2026. So, it wouldn't really be a high-risk move because you're not really taking on too much money, and also you wouldn't be giving up too much draft capital as well. I think he would go for a 2027 6th-round pick. If this is the deal, cool, sign me up. Now, what a J.J. McCarthy and Anthony Richardson quarterback room, that would be something for sure. I mean, you would be having 2 huge risks at the spot where it's I would kind of trust Kevin O'Connell to just make one of them work. Turn one of these 2 guys into a franchise quarterback instead of taking the safe route of Mac Jones. We're considering you would have to give up a 3rd-round pick compared to a 6th-round pick for Anthony Richardson. Go out there, spin that wheel, take that risk. Put your balls on the table, KOC, and be I can make Anthony Richardson work or I can make J.J. McCarthy work. I would kind of get more behind this idea than the Mac Jones idea because also, let's just say they both don't work. Okay, you're probably drafting in the top 10 next season. We just restart and you go draft that future quarterback instead of where it's Mac Jones, your floor is probably an 8-win team. Or if you roll out with Richardson and J.J. McCarthy, hey, your ceiling could be 12, 13 wins if one of those 2 pop. But also your floor would be incredibly low. I'd rather have the Vikings do that instead of playing a safe route with Mac Jones. And, Anthony Richardson right now as an NFL quarterback is flat out horrible. I mean, I'm not making this argument because of anything he has done in Indianapolis, but his upside is no doubt intriguing. You can't look me in the face and say, oh, I wouldn't have some interest in Anthony Richardson. Because you go through on the tape, there are some flashes, man. Even at the NFL level, this guy's a freak athlete, one of the best athletes at the quarterback position in the National Football League. He has shown his arm is absolutely massive. Yes, he doesn't really see the field too well. He's not the most accurate quarterback. Injuries have been a problem. He hasn't been the best leader. There's a full list of cons I could go down for Anthony Richardson. But if you could somehow make it all work, which, hey, if you believe in Kevin O'Connell and you think he's this quarterback whisperer, you should have some faith in a guy like Anthony Richardson developing with, his tutelage and under his system. And I'd rather have the Vikings just kind of keep throwing darts at the board of these high upside guys like Richardson, like J.J. McCarthy, instead of a guy like Mac Jones. Now, some other Vikings quarterback targets, if it's either of those, or if it's neither of these 2 guys, you got Kirk Cousins, who's probably going to be cut by the Atlanta Falcons. You got a Tyrod Taylor out there. He would just be a solid veteran to bring in to back up J.J. McCarthy. Malik Willis, probably, pretty unrealistic for the Vikes, as he would probably go for, $40 million guaranteed in free agency. Marcus Mariota, solid high-end backup, was working with Jaden Daniels over the last 2 seasons. Gardner Minshew, same thing could be said about him. High-end backup to mentor J.J. McCarthy. So out of all these names we're talking about here, I would probably, if you want to go the polarizing choice, it's Anthony Richardson, no doubt about it. But if you want to go a safe veteran choice, I would have some interest in Tyrod. I would have some interest in Mariota. Kirk, I would have some interest in. I just don't know about all the noise that Kirk Cousins would bring into this organization. But you guys let me know. Between these 2 guys, Anthony Richardson and Mac Jones, keep in mind you're giving up a 6th-round pick for Mac Jones compared to probably a 2nd or a 3rd, or a 6th-round pick for Richardson compared to a 2nd or a 3rd for Mac Jones. Pick one you guys would want to trade for. For me, it's Anthony Richardson. I know Mac Jones is a way better quarterback, but I think right now, with where the Vikings are at, you got to be bold. You got to take a risk, and a guy like Richardson is a risk. A guy like Mac Jones just flat out isn't. That's a safe choice, and that's why I'm a little concerned. The Vikings understand if they miss the playoffs, they're probably getting fired. that's also why it makes me think that they will lean a guy like Mac Jones within the building over a guy like Anthony Richardson. But you guys let me know. Pick a QB you want the Vikes to trade for. Drop that quarterback's name down below. We'll get on out of here. As always, let's go Vikes. Alrighty. You guys let me know your thoughts down below. Would have to be Mac Jones. I just think Mac Jones would be a pretty uninspiring pickup for the Minnesota Vikings. Like, what are we really doing? You're not going anywhere. I'd rather just take the risk. Bro, stop doing this, please. No one wants any of them. Please stop. Well, we got to talk about it. I mean, this is the only thing going on in Minnesota right now is who the hell is going to be the quarterback next season. It's probably going to be JJ, but there's reports out there that they're keeping their eye on the whole situation. And also, is a good point, Reed. Like, if you do go Anthony Richardson or JJ and the Vikings have another terrible year, like, Jefferson could want out. Yeah, I could see Cousins going to Arizona. I could definitely be on the table. All right, we'll dive into a mailbag here in about 20 minutes or so. So if you guys got a question, hashtag Vikings, whatever you guys want to talk about, or super chat to get up on the show. We greatly appreciate all of you guys getting those questions in there. Anything you guys want to talk about, we'll dive into it. Just use hashtag Vikings to get up on the show. Drop those questions in the live chat. Reed Southern, get a question in there. Corey Miller, if you could get a question in there, that'd be great. Get Wrecked Nerds, get a question in there. I would appreciate it. E3 Johnson as well. If you guys could help me out, I would appreciate it. Got one in there. Appreciate you, Corey. Appreciate you, Reed. Alrighty, let's dive into it. We're going to get optimistic now. Enough of the quarterback talk. Let's talk about the Vikings as a whole and give you guys 8 reasons why you guys should be excited for the Vikings and the future of Minnesota Vikings football. We'll dive into that here in a second. Alrighty. Corey Miller, appreciate you. All right, let's dive into it. Here we go. Yo, what's going on, everybody? You are watching Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's show, we're going to get optimistic. I still think a lot of Vikings fans in Viking land are a little negative about this team. Obviously, coming off a pretty, disaster season where the Vikings won 9-8, even though they had deep playoff run. What's that? Yeah. All right, hold on, guys. I'm going to restart this real quick. I think AR5 issues is his work ethic. Yeah, I mean, could be. All right, let's talk about it. Yo, what's going on, everybody? You are watching Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman. And coming up on today's show, we give you guys 8 reasons to be excited about the future of the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, a lot of fans are pretty negative right now. We had some deep playoff run aspirations before the season. Did not end up being the case. The quarterback play was a disaster, but I think people are a little too negative. And I got 8 reasons why you guys should be excited. And number 1, funny enough, is probably the biggest Kevin O'Connell critic you guys see out here on YouTube. I still think the Vikings, at the end of the day, have an elite coaching staff. And just a combination of Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores is still one of the best in the league. Now, I have my gripes with KOC. Like, his short yardage play calling, his refusal to stay more committed to the run, and I think he truly has been carried by Brian Flores over the last couple of seasons, especially this past year. I mean, if the Vikings didn't have Brian Flores, this team is probably a 3, 4, 5-win team at max, but still the combination of these two, I think it's a top 5 coaching duo in the NFL because you got an elite play caller on the offensive side of the ball. You got an elite defensive play caller. Not a lot of teams can say that. Like, that's what all these teams are trying to build now. Like, you look at how successful the Niners were this past season with all the injuries they had. Why were they so successful? Well, they had Kyle Shanahan calling the shots offensively. They had Robert Saleh calling the shots defensively. Look at what the Titans are trying to do. Robert Saleh and Brian Dable, offensive guy, defensive guy. Like all of these teams, if you do go one side of the football as your head coach, where they're trying to nail the hire on the opposite side, and with Brian Flores still with the lawsuit against the NFL, I think he's going to be here in Minnesota for a while. And while the Vikings do have Brian Flores, they will have a top 5 defense. You can pencil that in for next season. So that's great news for Vikings fans, because now we just need this offensive genius in Kevin O'Connell to figure out the quarterback position and figure out his side of the football. And if they can do that, should be in the playoffs. Now, depending on the quarterback play, we'll see if the Vikings can win one or maybe multiple playoff games. But the defense next year, it was top 3 in the league. With Flores coming back, it will be top 5. Let's just see if this offense can up their play potentially next season. You guys let me know this. Is Kevin O'Connell on the hot seat? I think he 100% is. I think with Sam Darnold clinching his ticket to the Super Bowl, he 100% should be, because he had the biggest say in Darnold leaving. There's no reporting on that. I'm just going off my gut. I fully believe that KOC had the final say on the quarterback spot. Heading into this past season. So I think he should be on the hot seat. If they don't win a playoff game, I think he's probably gone. And also, you have a guy like Flores, we could just easily promote him to head coach. You guys don't know. YFSN for no if KOC is on the hot seat. All right, number 2 here. We got to go with the best wide receiver in football, and that's Justin Jefferson. A revenge tour is loading. And I think if you ask people, hey, give me your top 3 wide receivers in the NFL, I'll probably say 60% of people won't name Justin Jefferson. It was actually cool. Jerry Rice was talking about Justin Jefferson recently on a podcast. He was like, hey, I understand he didn't have the statistical output of guys like JSN and Puka Nacua this past season, but you're out of your damn mind if you think this guy got worse. And yeah, he did lose his wide receiver 1 title this past season because of the quarterback play. It was nothing he did. It was just because of the quarterback play. And, Justin Jefferson, I will say, in terms of him being like a true wide receiver 1 in the NFL, he can do everything. He's a deep threat. He's got great hands. And he's also he's been healthy. He's only really missed games in 2023. And this past season, it took him all 17 games to eclipse 1,000 yards. I think the touchdown output is definitely concerning. But again, if you ask people who are the top 3 wide receivers in the league, people are probably going to say Chase, JSN, and Puka Nacua. I promise you, with the way this guy's wired, he's going to come back next season fully motivated, and hopefully we get a 2022 version of Jefferson, where even he was calling for it midway through the season. He was saying, I need to get back to my 2022 self, where he had 1,800 yards and 17 games played. Hopefully he can find the end zone more than he did this past season, because 2 touchdowns the entire season. It's got to be better than that. Especially he needs more than 1,000 yards. I mean, for a guy who played the entire season, you got to have more than that. So, we'll see what the output is, but I think a revenge tour is definitely coming for Jefferson. I think Vikings fans should be encouraged about that. But number 3 here, you got some young studs in the trenches. For the first time ever, I think we can say that here in Minnesota, where you got a lot of guys, on both the defensive side and offensive side of the line of scrimmage, where they're, nasty, and they're young and they're still getting better. Christian Darrisaw, he's still young. I mean, Darrisaw, I believe, is still 25 years old. 26 years old, turns 27 in June, so he's hitting as an athletic prime. Jalen Redmond, still a young defensive tackle. He's getting better. I thought Donovan Jackson showed a lot of pop. Dallas Turner, we'll go fully in-depth on him here in a second, but he looks like one of the better edges in the league. Levi Drake Rodriguez, he's a potential starter that you found in the 7th round. You got 5 young studs in the trenches who aren't going anywhere. Those guys will be on the Minnesota Vikings. That's something to be encouraged about, especially having that bookend left tackle, having that bookend edge rusher, having that nasty defensive tackle in the interior, and Jalen Redmond. That is something Vikings fans should be very, very, excited about, because not a lot of other teams can say that. And it's got to figure out that quarterback position. I think that's really all what it comes down to here in Minnesota. But number 4, the NFC is wide open. It's not like we are in the AFC where we're staring in the face of a Lamar Jackson, a Joe Burrow, where you see a guy like even a Justin Herbert in that conference. There is really no powerhouse in the NFC moving forward. The Seahawks are great. Sam Darnold's awesome this year. But are you going to pencil in the Seahawks where it's hey, they're going to replicate what they did this past season? Maybe they can. And maybe I'm not giving them enough credit. But I think the NFC is wide open. I think the team to be most concerned about moving forward is probably the Bears. with Caleb Williams getting better and Ben Johnson looking like he's going to be one of the better coaches in the NFL. But you look at the NFC East, like the Eagles, I feel like they're going to fall off a cliff here eventually. The Cowboys, the Giants, the Commanders, like the NFC South's a joke. The NFC West is still very good, but a lot of those guys on the Niners are getting older. The Rams, like maybe Stafford's out the door after next season. Like just the NFC as a whole, like there's no dominant team where it's like you look at the AFC and it's like, all right, you still got to deal with the Chiefs, you still got to deal with the Ravens, the Bills, and Josh Allen. That's not the case here in the NFC. At number 5 for me, I think this is honestly probably the best reason to be excited. Ownership is desperate in Minnesota. I think it was telling with the Wolves making Flores the highest paid DC in the NFL. You just made Kevin O'Connell one of the highest paid head coaches. Now you're making Brian Flores one of the highest paid DCs in the National Football League. They are willing to spend a lot of money when they are not one of the most cash-rich ownership groups in the NFL. I think they're desperate. I think they feel the pressure from this fan base because the Vikings have just been mediocre. And now we got them paying up for a DC, got them paying up for the head coach, kind of going no drama here in the organization, which is great. They have been pretty damn good owners, even though they have been, the whole Jim Harbaugh thing was definitely annoying, but you still landed Kevin O'Connell. They put a lot of money into the facilities. They're always ranked very high when those NFLPA grades come out every offseason. So at least you have an ownership group who wants to win. Like even though they, maybe they want to win so bad that kind of restricts them from being really ultra aggressive, if that makes sense, because they don't want to bottom out and be a bad team. But I think they are going to start to take some risk here, which is good news for fans. But hey, if you guys could hit that thumbs up icon. Our boss has actually challenged us to get 1,000 likes on today's show. So if you guys could help me out, go down there, smash that thumbs up icon, make me look good for my bosses. That'll be sweet here at Chat Sports. Let's see if we get to 1,000 likes. If you're watching right now, we're not at 1,000. Go down there, smash that thumbs up icon. Also, if you're just a diehard Vikings fan, show your support down below and hit that thumbs up button. All right, number 6 here. Let's talk about Dallas Turner. I think the biggest positive from a player personnel standpoint this past season was no doubt that Dallas Turner took a huge step. And if you start to compare him with a guy like Jared Verse, Jared Verse kicked his ass in terms of total pressures where he was 6th in the NFL. Like Dallas Turner had him beat in sacks. He had him beat in tackles. He had him beat in forced fumbles, the same amount of TFLs. Like everybody was saying the Vikings made a huge mistake not taking Turner over Verse. And I still think right now Turner is a better player than Jared Verse. However, Turner, he was still 3 years younger than Verse. When Turner hits 24, 25 years old, he legit has the potential to be a top 10 edge rusher. That's where it's also with this Vikings team. You just think about the bones they have in place for a very long time. You have the left tackle, you have the edge rusher. That's huge in terms of roster construction. You have the superstar weapon in Jefferson. You just got to somehow find that quarterback. And maybe the quarterback is J.J. McCarthy. Maybe it's another guy. But no matter what, you got a elite coaching staff. You got some good edge rushers. You got a good tackle. You got a good weapon. The Vikings, even though it feels like a disaster right now, still got a lot of potential, to really turn this around very quickly. At number 7, we're going to give love to a position coach here for the Minnesota Vikings. A guy who's been great since he got to Minnesota. Keenan B. Cardell. I'm still shocked this guy hasn't gotten the nod as potentially being an offensive coordinator in the league at some point. But, as long as the Vikings have Keenan B. Cardell as a wide receiver coach, they'll have elite wide receivers next to Justin Jefferson. Because Justin Jefferson will always be great. I think they'll rotate in over the next couple of years. Maybe it's not Addison, but whoever that wide receiver 3 is, whether that is Speedy or that is another guy, the wide receiver group will be good. You always have good weapons. The Vikings have always had good weapons because of B. Cardell. You think about Thielen and Diggs, to then go into Jefferson and Thielen, now go into Jefferson and Addison. If there is another wide receiver too, if they move off Addison, I would trust in Keenan and developing him. Even a guy like Ty Felton, who he took in the 3rd round, I trust in him developing, into a solid wide receiver 3 if he's asked to be just that. But Keenan, he's a great wide receiver coach. Fans should be fired up about it. And then also Will Reichard coming in at number 8 here. Will the thrill. You talk about guys that really popped. I think there was a big 3 this past season. Dallas Turner, Will Reichard, and also Jalen Redmond. But the Vikings have their kicker. This guy was a first-team All-Pro. Has there ever been another kicker in Vikings history that was first-team All-Pro? Maybe Blair Walsh's rookie year. when he was fantastic. But Will the Thrill, shout out to him. I mean, this guy's an absolute beast. I love him. Really, it was always exciting, especially when this season was just kind of a throwaway. It was really fun just being like, oh, man, you know what? We get to watch Will the Thrill kick some kicks today. So he's first team All Pro. So you have the franchise kicker, franchise edge rusher, franchise left tackle, franchise wide receiver, a really good coaching staff. Got to figure out that quarterback position. Hopefully you have that in the building. We'll wait and see. But if you guys could, show Will Reichard some love. Type those 16s down below in the comments section. Show Will the Throw your support down below. And we'll get on out of here. Appreciate all of you guys for watching today's show. As always, Skol Vikes. Alrighty. Shout out to the real ones in the building. Sean Mannion, by the way, Eagles' new offensive coordinator here. He was the Packers quarterback coach. So Sean Mannion going to Philadelphia. Vikings legend. That's crazy. Good for Mannion. Just 33 years old. That's pretty funny. Saquon and Sam Darnold are not going to come to Minnesota. All right, we'll get a mailbag going here. So you just use hashtag Vikings. We'll answer all of your questions around the Minnesota Vikes. Just get those questions down below or super chat to get up on the show. We greatly appreciate it. Get those questions in there. We're going to need some more questions. So if you guys could drop them in the live chat. Yeah, Reed, I hope so too. That'll be awesome. At Joe Burrow trade request hits, we are all hands on deck this offseason. Appreciate you, Amanda. Yeah, definitely not. That's a better answer, LB. LB, get a question in there. CB and nose tackle in the draft. I mean, definitely cornerback. We'll see though. Nose tackle, I think they're all right with Jalen Redmond and Levi Drake Rodriguez. What would the Vikings pick in the first round? I'd probably go CB. My guy Sherrod McCoy out of Tennessee. He's probably my top choice. Mansour Delane, he'll probably end up going top 10. No safeties besides Caleb Downs. It'd be cool taking in the first round, but definitely in the second. Would Kyle Rudolph be considered a future Hall of Famer? Probably not. I wish. No, I did not see Jefferson do that. Lego fella. I did not see that. Did he really? I absolutely hate that if that's the case. Best thing Minnesota can do is trade KOC. And we'll talk about it here. Nick Wright suggested that the Bills should call the Vikings about a KOC trade. Appreciate you, Z Cool. No, I think Redmond's more of a true defensive tackle. Like, I just don't know if he has the top end speed to be an edge. I don't think his profile translates to the edge rusher spot. Would you consider Malik Willis a solid option at quarterback? I mean, not really. He's going to get $50 million, probably $30 guaranteed this offseason. So no, yeah, probably not. That's why the Vikings are in a weird spot with this quarterback stuff. It's like, if you're not getting Burrow, which you're not, you have to ride out with J.J. McCarthy. Like, if Lamar becomes available, yeah, give me Lamar, but not going to happen. You're going to be kind of stuck with J.J. McCarthy You just got to hope that he develops, which very well could be on the table. I'm not saying he will, but I think it's naive to say, like, oh, JJ's a finished product. He can't get any better. Not edge 3-4 end with a nose tackle. Those guys stunt and it opens up. You're saying he could be like a 3-4 edge? Yeah, I could see him being a 3-4 edge. Yeah, I saw that. Kirk Cousins likely to be released, so we'll talk about that. All right, let's dive into this mailbag. If you guys have any questions while we're in the middle of it, just super chat or use hashtag Vikings. But appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. Let's do it. Could the Vikings trade Kevin O'Connell? Definitely not. But Nick Wright of Fox Sports had an interesting trade idea for the Vikings head coach that I want to dive into first. Then in the second half of today's show, we answer your questions about the Minnesota Vikings in a mailbag. Let's just start off with this ludicrous idea. You guys probably clicked on this video and be like, Patrick, what the hell are you talking about today? Well, Nick Wright, after the Bills ended up firing Sean McDermott, he suggested that the Buffalo Bills should call the Vikings about a Kevin O'Connell trade. And this was obviously before they hired Joe Brady, so assuming he changed his thoughts on that one. But kind of my thought on this was that nobody in media takes the Vikings seriously whatsoever. Like this team under the Kevin O'Connell era, like it has been successful. Like we have won 13 games, 14 games. Even in down years, it's 7-10, it's a 9-8. But nobody takes this team seriously. And I don't know why. I think it's just because of the brand of the Minnesota Vikings has, never won a Super Bowl. I think the Vikes are 0-4 in their last 4 appearances in the NFC Championship game, 0-4 in Super Bowls. Nobody takes this team seriously. Like, could you imagine if somebody else was like, oh, you know what? I think the Bills should call up the Packers about a Matt LaFleur trade. I think the Bills should call up the Bears about a Ben Johnson trade. Nobody would ever say that. Now, I don't know if this has carryover from, like, J.J. McCarthy or something like that. Now, I will say a Kevin O'Connell trade. If a team would call the Vikings and be like, hey, we'll give you 2 first-round picks for Kevin O'Connell, I would consider it because then you would have an easy, like it's not like the Vikings don't have, like, an easy replacement option. It's like, okay, Flores, you become the head coach. Josh McCown, you're calling plays as offensive coordinator. For 2 first-round picks, I would consider it. Also, KOC, I think, is a little overrated. Still think he's a very good head coach. I just don't think he is like that offensive genius that other people think. But hey, if you guys could hit that subscribe button today, we'll dive into questions here in a second. But the offseason for the Vikes is going to be a lot of fun. We got the latest news, rumors, and reports, free agency coverage, draft content, trade buzz, all of it here on the channel. So hit that subscribe button today. Once you guys are subbed to the channel, give me those skulls down below. All right, Corey Miller, what's going on, man? As we dive into this mailbag, saying, do you think KOC would have a better chance of developing Anthony Richardson due to his better mechanics, as KOC seems to be better at fixing decisional errors more than mechanical? Great thought right there, Corey. It's a good question. I don't want to say he's better at that, but like that does make sense. Like if you've seen his track record of Sam Darnold, he shored up his decisional errors. And obviously with J.J. McCarthy, we haven't seen Kevin O'Connell fix up mechanical errors. But it's also not like Anthony Richardson's got great mechanics. I mean, they're definitely better than J.J. McCarthy. But yeah, I think you would have a better chance of developing Anthony Richardson. Like there was a reason, guys, that the Vikings back in 2023, they tried to send the farm to land Anthony Richardson in that draft class. So yeah, I think slightly. I don't think it would be like definite yes or no, but just slightly a better chance to develop Richardson over McCarthy. Big Diesel, what's going on? If none of your top 5 round 1 picks are available at 18, would you be okay if the Vikings trade back for Thieneman in the back of the first and added draft capital? Yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably an option we'll talk about on a mock draft coming up here. I love Thieneman as a prospect. I know a lot of Vikings fans do, and with Harrison Smith probably going to retire, they have a massive need at the safety position. So I could look at like let's just say Jamad McCoy, Mansour Delane, Sonny Styles, Jeremiah Love, if those 4 off the board, yeah, I'd be willing to move back. Because listen, Kenyon Sadiq, I don't know if it's just this draft process is going on, and I'm like, do I really want to take him at 18? Like, even if the Vikings cut Hawk, like, I don't know if I really want to take Kenyon Sadiq at 18 because, listen, I think the tight end prospects last year, like Colson Loveland, Tyler Warren would obviously go ahead of him. I would even argue that Mason Taylor is on like the same tier of like tight end prospect as a Kenyon Sadiq. He's a freak athlete. I think he's a huge risk. Now, if you believe in Sadiq, I think you take him. But let's just say if McCoy, Delane, Styles, say those 3 aren't there and Jeremiah Love's not there, yeah, I'd be down to trade back and draft Dylan Thieneman at the end of the first. And plus the Vikings, like, you got to complete this roster. You need more guys in there. Yeah, adding more draft capital, 100%. Zach Gamian saying, how much do you think Harrison Smith retiring will affect our defense next year? And other than Downs, would you want to bring in at safety any free agents or trades? Good question. Yeah, I think our defense will take a step back. Even though Harrison Smith, like, I think the Lions game kind of fooled Vikings fans of how good Harrison Smith really was this past season. Like, during the Lions game, he was absolutely awesome. Like, that looked like prime Harrison Smith. But besides that, he wasn't too good last year. Like, if you guys could remember, he had a lot of bad games. Like the Commanders game, he was great too. But like the Lions game, if you take out the Lions and Commanders game, he really was just a below average safety. Like I would want the Vikings to draft a safety instead of going with the free agency market or the trade market. So watch out for a guy like we were just talking about, Dylan Thieneman. There's a guy out of Toledo, forget his name, Warren. He's pretty solid. I was looking into him. There's a Penn State safety you could take in the 3rd round. Probably not going to trade for any safeties. You can maybe sign a guy. But I also think the Vikings are probably banking on a guy like Theo Jackson, Josh Metellus, those 2 taking steps up with Harrison Smith out of the fold. But they'll make a move at the safety position. I just don't know if it's, early on in the draft, free agency, or maybe later on in the draft. But, I think we'll miss Harrison Smith. I just don't think it will be as much. Like, it's not like we're losing prime Harrison Smith. We're losing 36-year-old Harry here. So I don't think it would be that big of a drop-off. But Reed Southern, what's going on, man? Saying, who do you think will 100% be cut this offseason? 100% be cut. I want to say Hawk, but I don't think that's 100%. 100%. I don't know if there are any 100%. If I had to go like most likely, starting at the top, I think TJ Hawkinson would be number 1. Give me like Ryan Kelly 2, Aaron Jones 3, and then like a Hargrave 4. I don't think there's any guarantees. If I had to put my money on one, though, it would probably be TJ Hawkinson or Reed Southern. Appreciate you. Hopefully you enjoyed your birthday last week. Shout out to you. Now, if you guys are subscribed to the channel, just give me those skulls down below in the comments section. Want to see where all the real ones are at, and also want to make the comment section look like US Bank Stadium on game day. So get those skulls down below in the comment section if you guys are a subscriber here to the channel. All right, we'll talk about some more questions you guys have here in a second. But let me tell you guys about today's presenting sponsor, as Prize Picks. Now, the big game is almost here, and there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And since the big game is right around the corner, that also means it's your last chance to get into the football action before next season. So close the season outright with Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you put your first $5. Now, Prize Picks allows you to find your community. With the new social feeds feature, you can share Prize Picks with your friends and copy lineups from winners with a single click. Copy lineups you like or use them as inspiration for your own picks. You can even follow Prize Picks partners like us and tail or fade our picks with just one click. You guys can also check out their new feature called Early Payouts, where let's just say your player gets off to a really hot start. You now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. So download the Prize Picks app today and use promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. A massive shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's edition of Vikings Now. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Jettis coming in with the next question. What's going on? Saying, I think we should sign Otten and Dean, both from Tampa Bay. I think we should take Caden McDonald, defensive tackle from Ohio State, and Thieneman in the second. I love McDonald. He is so physical and big. All right, first off with Cade Otton and Jamel Dean. If you cut Hawkinson, I'd be in on both of these guys. You probably should be able to clear up some money to get Jamel Dean. I mean, Jamel Dean will probably get $14 million per year. Cade Otton probably around 3 or 4. So I think the Vikings could make that work. Big fan of Cade Otton as well. I think he's one of the more underrated playmakers at the tight end position in the NFL. I will say it. Don't love what you're saying here on the second part. Caden McDonald, not the biggest fan of taking like an interior defensive lineman that doesn't have a lot of pass rush ability in the first round. Kind of reminds me of Tyleik Williams, who the Lions took last year. Where it's like, yeah, he's solid, but is that where you want to spend your first round pick on? Maybe he ends up developing into something better. Like Caden McDonald's a stud, big body, like you're saying, he is physical. But I would just rather have the Vikings go a different direction. But Thieneman in the second, you guys know how I feel about him. I think that should no doubt be the pick for the Vikings at that spot. Ryan Manley saying, do you think we're good at running back with Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones, or should we look at beefing it up on the draft? If you cut Aaron Jones, absolutely, and I think that's fully on the table. I don't think it's a guarantee that Aaron Jones is on this Vikings team next season. You are able to save about $8 million if you do cut him. You've taken him on about $5 million of dead cap, but it could be worth it to let go of Aaron Jones. And, these running backs in the NFL nowadays, like, they're all coming out and they're popping. Like, I just think the Vikings need to get younger, more athletic at that spot. And, credit to Aaron Jones. Like, hey, great locker room guy. What he's done for the Vikings over the last 2 seasons has been great. But also I think Jordan Mason, get more carries for him. I still think Jordan Mason's one of the more underrated backs in the league. Lean into him more. He's a downhill power back. I think he can take on a bigger role. But then if you do let go of Aaron Jones, maybe go out there and sign a guy. Maybe you go all in and get like a Breece Hall or Kenneth Walker. But no doubt, definitely try to sign a guy or try to draft a guy maybe in day 3 of the NFL draft. Noah Carl saying, as a Hoosiers fan, I think Surratt has a very high floor. Agreed. Also, D'Angelo Pons is definitely a first-round talent, but his size is holding him back. If he was 5'11", he would easily go first round. Totally agree with both these. Elijah Surratt is one of my favorite wide receivers in this year's draft. His floor is incredibly high. If the Vikings did not have Jordan Addison, I would be absolutely pounding the table for the Vikings to take him in the second round because I think he's about the same as Jordan Addison. I think Elijah Surratt is going to be probably the best wide receiver in this year's class. I fully stand by that. I think he has a chance to be better than Tyson. I think he's got a chance to be better than Carnell Tate. I think he is that good. And also the same can be said about D'Angelo Pons. Like, I just think this is one of these things we don't overthink it with these Indiana Hoosier prospects where it's like, yes, these guys have been doubted. They've been ruled out their entire collegiate career, but they ran through college football. It wasn't just because of Mendoza. It wasn't just because of Kurt Signetti. They had dogs on that entire team. And you look at a guy like C.J. West, defensive tackle for the Niners, who went to Indiana. He had a great rookie year. I think Signetti's got a great eye for talent, and these guys have been translating. Pons, if you could get him in the second round, add to that cornerback room, yeah. Vikings took either of those 2 guys, Noah Carl, I'd be all in. Z Cool saying, why do so many Vikings fans lose faith after the team struggles? To me, a true fan is a true fan regardless of the struggle. Z Cool, you're my guy. Kind of disagree with you on this. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing if fans lose faith after the team struggles. Because, you get new information, you get new takes. That's why I think it's kind of ridiculous. And I see the comments on every other, YouTuber out there where they're saying like, you flip-flop on your takes so much. Like, you thought this of McCarthy. Now you think this of McCarthy. You thought this of Kevin O'Connell. Now you think this of Kevin O'Connell. It's like, we get more data. You see the team play and they look horrible. Like, you're not going to feel the same as you did before that game began. So I don't know why Vikings fans especially lose a lot of faith, but I'm sure they're just tired of being mediocre, tired of the 9-8 seasons. Like, sometimes fans, I think, want to bottom out and get that high draft pick. So you get all that hope in the offseason instead of just being in the middle of the pack where we are right now. It's just like we're kind of just waiting for next season. Like, Raiders fans throw a party every offseason. Like, they enjoy that. There is some, I don't think always as an NFL team, like, they get the same cut out of all the money that the NFL makes every single season. I think sometimes NFL teams are more, I don't want to say willing to go 3-14 over 9-8, But it's like the team that goes 3-14, their offseason is going to be a lot more entertaining for the fan base compared to like this Vikings team who went 9-8. All right, you have the 18th pick, not a lot of money to spend in free agency. You already kind of have some stability in the organization, so there's not a lot of turnover. Like I'm sure some NFL teams are like, oh, our fan base is going to eat up free agency, the draft, and all these different segments of the Raiders offseason. So yeah, I hear you. I mean, even if you get down on the team, I still think that makes you a fan, though. Just coming in with $2 super chat. Appreciate you. Trade Brosmer and Felton for Jarrett Stidham. Nah, I'm good. I want to trade Ty Felton for Jarrett Stidham. I think Stidham is, he had his chance. I thought he lost in that game. I know a lot of people are getting on Sean Payton. Sean Payton, for right reason, was a complete bonehead in that game, going for it on 4th down. But Jarrett Stidham lost him the game with that turnover. Again, that was in the AFC title game in a terrible conditions. He's probably a really good backup quarterback. But I'd rather just keep Ty Felton on the team instead of trading him for Jarrett Stidham. Now, if you guys made it to the end of today's show, appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. Just hit me with the real one down below in the comment section, and we'll get on out of here. As always, let's go Vikes. Z, cool. Are the Vikings going to be on Hard Knocks this year? I hope to God no. I just can't handle more J.J. McCarthy memes coming out of Hard Knocks. So I'm going to say no on that. It would be cool. Like, it would be cool to see Jefferson, Kevin O'Connell, but the Vikings team is just way too corny. We're going to get made fun of way too much. So, yeah, I'm going to say no on that. Maybe J.J. McCarthy needs to be on Hard Knocks and just be like, hey, J.J., just be quiet. Let's see if you can just not become a meme for 2 months. All righty, but we're going to get on out of here. Appreciate all of you guys for tuning in today. Videos coming out all week. Also, watch out for some merch dropping on the channel tomorrow. We'll hit a bunch of you guys up about that. But we'll get on out of here. As always, Skol Vikes.